everybody. This is Diane. Hello and welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell, and this Alaska is fried, not baked.
Okay.
But I will be baked later because there's a new dispensary
Oh my god.
close to where I lived, so I went and got some edibles.
Oh my god. Can you actually say that doing what you do?
Yeah, it's perfectly legal in this state, and plus, I don't smoke, but my boss does, so.
Oh my god. I hope your boss doesn't listen to Biters. Now your boss is outed too.
It is like having a beer here. Some people like their glass of wine in the evening. Some people like their magic butter bars.
Which, by the way, I said this to you, and I won't say exactly what I said, but I'm so disappointed that I'm sitting by a very small glass of wine right now.
I know, it's like a restaurant pour.
It's worse than a restaurant pour. It's very sad, but it was all that was left in the bottle. Which, by the way... Oh, go ahead.
How did I not take those last two drinks of this bottle? What was I thinking? Was I drunk or something?
So our sister brought over my belated birthday presents today, and one of the things was a bottle of Chilkoot vodka or port.
Uh-huh.
The vodka from Hanes.
Uh-huh.
And then there's this thing that's like a thing that you pour vodka into and you create your own little herbal infusion.
Ooh.
So I'm going to have to get it brewing for our next Capes and Lunatics venture.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, it's been a very, very long time since I imbibed in an edible, and the ones that I did imbibe in were not commercially made. We'll put it that way.
Okay, the only time I've ever done edibles, and I will never ever do them again, and I don't smoke in case anyone I work with is listening to this, because it is verboten where I am, so I actually really don't. They can totally test me. But anyway, I did edibles once, and I had a horrible trip. Horrible. I thought I was gonna have a psychotic break.
I got really bad.
And they were not
slaughter.
Professionally made either.
Yeah, not commercially made. And it was one of those where it's like, I knew my friend had made them strong, and so like she's like, oh yeah, she's like, most people start out with a half a it wasn't a brownie, it was like a lemon square or something, and she's like, most people start out with half. I was like, so I'm gonna start out with a quarter, and like an hour or two later, I'm like, these are duds, and so I ate the other quarter.
No, you
and then
made
like an hour
made
later,
the classic
I'm like,
mistake, didn't you?
Exactly. I was like, I'm still not feeling anything, so I ate the other half. And yeah, after that, I was just like, I knew that I was having the same like 5 conversations over and over. I was like, we've talked about this, haven't we? And like 10 minutes would go by and it'd be like 4 hours, and I had couch lock, and it was terrible. I hated it, but
I am really not laughing at you, but I made exactly the same mistake, and that's why I had such a horrible trip.
Total rookie move.
Horrible.
So,
oh my god.
These have a very specific milligram. I went to the dispensary, and they have a specific milligram and everything. And I am not drinking alcohol tonight, so I'm not going to mix my meds. But I've been having terrible jaw clenching because of stress at work, and so I'm just
you go to your dentist and you get a mouth guard.
I have one that doesn't actually help clenching. It'll keep you from grinding your teeth down, but it will not keep you from clenching your jaw.
So you go to your nurse practitioner and you get some amitriptyline. Let me know how your other plan works out for you.
Well, then this Alaska will be baked.
Which, pro tip, that is a reference in case you're not following national politics like we both obsessively do. It's a reference to some Yahoo, who I don't even know if he's actually from Alaska, who refers to himself as Baked Alaska, and he was arrested for participating in the insurrection in our nation's capital last week.
So he does split his time between Alaska and Arizona.
Not anymore, because he's on the no-fly list now.
Yep. You're going to have to take the ferry or drive through Canada. I don't think Canada wants you.
Yeah, Canada's going to be like, peace out, brother, turn around.
Yeah, so strangely enough, he was arrested in Texas, and I tried to read through to figure out, like, where he was, like, was he hiding out in Texas? Was he, like, at a friend's house? Like, could he not get home? Like, what was going on?
Well, so that answers the question that I saw on one Hot Mess Alaska's Twitter feed today, though, which was someone was like, is this dude even from Alaska? Does he even have any relationship to Alaska? Well, there you go.
Yeah, so I actually think, sorry, Di, but I think he's from Wasilla. Which, I mean...
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I am not going anywhere that I don't have to go between, like, tonight and a week from now, because all of the yahoos with their guns will be out in full force.
Yep.
And pro tip, I'm not saying guns are a horrible thing. I'm not saying people who own guns are a horrible thing. I own a gun. You own multiple guns. Mm-hmm. That's not the thing. There are just plenty of, like, QAnon snorting, insane,
and here's
gun-waving people who live in my neck of the woods.
Well, and here's the thing: is there are plenty of people who don't take enough medication or far too much or something, and they own firearms and they have really nasty beliefs and things like that. But I honestly believe that the people who are inciting what is going on in Alaska do not actually live in Alaska, because when they were saying that they were going to rally at the Capitol,
they were talking
about they were talking about the Diamond Courthouse, and they gave the address of the Diamond Mall,
which is in Anchorage, which is not our capital.
Not the capital. Yeah, exactly. So I honestly believe that the people that are trying to set this stuff up are not actually Alaskans. So we got that going for us.
Believe me, there are plenty of people in this neck of the woods who will gladly participate in anything that's being drummed up.
Oh yeah, and I'm very glad that our law enforcement agencies across the state are taking it very seriously, and they've shut down our courthouses, they've shut down our state office buildings.
Gosh, we're talking like we're doing our Real Housewives podcast,
right? But it's just, I mean, it's so crazy. It is like what we are podcasting about, The Stand,
right?
Like, the world's just gone bonkers.
So speaking of The Stand, this is episode 2, Pocket Savior. So what was your rating?
So, as you know, my last rating was unusually low. And it's because the original Stand will always hold a place in my heart. And I really didn't think this one started off that great. I bumped it up a little for this episode because we're kind of getting into a little bit, more of the story that I know, except they screwed some stuff up.
Not necessarily, because I was reading about your version, which I haven't watched yet, and it sounds like they screwed some stuff up from the original book. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So I gave it a 3.0 home plate masturbators.
Oh my God, you still rated it really low.
I did. But I promise you, it gets better.
So I don't think I rated this one quite as high as I rated the last one, but I'm still liking it a lot. I gave it 4 bites of human calf muscle out of 5.
Ooh, I do have to say that I did like that edition from the original 1994 version.
Okay, and that actually happens in the book.
Okay, they made it much prettier in the 1994 version. We'll talk about that.
So, I don't have any numbers because, again, they're not really releasing anything about this is the viewership and this is how much we spent, and yeah, I don't really have any numbers.
Yeah.
I guess the one number that I had that I thought was kind of interesting was that they started filming in September 2019, which we had talked about last time, that they started filming before COVID was a thing. And they had actually started talking with Stephen King about a reboot, or Stephen King had started talking about a reboot like way back in 2017. So, prescient. All right, so our title was Pocket Savior, and obviously that is the name of Larry's album.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could really reach and say that it's also like about the whole God versus Satan thing that we kind of talked about last time, but I feel like that's kind of reaching.
Not entirely. I'd be curious to find out from you if the names mean anything from the book, because of course the original 1994 version was 4 episodes, not 9. So they obviously had some extra naming to do.
Like the names of the episodes?
Yeah.
So far I'm gonna say no. I mean, we've only talked about 2 episodes so far. The first one was The End, and then the second one, this one, is Pocket Savior. And I'm not, as far as I know and as far as I recall, The End didn't really have anything significant. Of course, the only thing that I can say about Pocket Savior is that it was the name of Larry's album.
Yeah. Which in the original, it was Baby Can You Dig Your Man?
Well, and so that's his hit song, but the album was actually Pocket Savior, and that's true from the novel as well. But
Gotcha.
The song that he was well known for and the song that like kind of launched the album was Baby Can You Dig Your Man? And what's really interesting is that there's actually, I mean, they don't have an entire song, but there's actually more than just the hook in the novel, and they talk a lot about the song in the novel. And like a lot of people know the song and recognize the song, and it's just, that was very interesting to me. So, because I got the feeling that Larry, at least the way he was portrayed in this, was still kind of more of a regional thing. And the way that it seemed from the book was that it was that song was like a national sensation before Captain Trips hit.
Oh yeah. So in the original version, I keep saying the original, in the 1994 version,
I think you could say the original version when we talk about the TV series. I think that's fair.
I feel like the book is the original version, and I'm just like a tourist. So, Baby Can You Dig Your Man was like, it was climbing the charts before Captain Trips really hit.
And I think that's true as well from the book. But I didn't get that feeling here quite so much.
No, he was still kind of doing more intimate stage shows.
Yeah, and it was like a small-ish launch party for his album. That was the impression that I got. And that people knew the song, and they were starting to know the song, and it was getting more attention. And
yeah, it kind of sounded like he had sold it to a commercial, for commercial use.
Right. He made that joke about it being used to sell cologne or something like that.
That's what it was. For some reason I was thinking
was it cologne?
But yeah, you're right. It's cologne.
Okay.
No, it's cologne. Yeah.
And that was an ad lib. That was not something that I recall from the book.
Okay. So yeah, they kind of played down Larry's fame in this one.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
So our writers were the same writers from last time, Josh Boone and Benjamin Cavell, and we talked about them last week, so check out last week's episode of Biters. If you have not, you should not be listening to episode 2 of The Stand. You should go back and watch episode 1 and listen to that version of that episode of Biters before you go on to this one.
Or, just do what you want, because time isn't real and the world's gone bonkers anyway. So.
Our director, I was floored when I opened up the IMDb information about our director. So his name is Tucker Gates, and he has 90 director credits.
What?
And he's directed tons of stuff. So I just made a very small list of like 15 things that I recognized. So Homeland, Ray Donovan, The Orville, Bates Motel, The Good Place, House of Cards, Parks and Rec, House, Lost, Californication, Alias, Buffy, Angel, X-Files, and his very first director credit was the original 21 Jump Street with Johnny Depp.
Wow.
Right?
Icon.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was like, wow, this guy's done a lot. And then when I started looking through all of the things that he'd done, and then I thought, Angel and Buffy, Marnell's going to be sold.
Of course. Like, has this guy, like, cloned himself? Does he ever sleep? Like, that's a lot of work.
Well, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, and I mean, some of them are one-offs, like one episode of Angel, one episode of Buffy, and some of them are like, I directed like 10 episodes of Lost and 12 episodes of Homeland, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Tucker Gates, hello, welcome to Biters. No episodes of Law and Order. Which, by the way, did you see Diana's post that Detective Elliot Stabler is coming back to SVU?
I did, and I dropped off just before he left the show.
Oh,
and,
I dropped off a long time ago, so
I think I might have to start watching again.
Yeah, I don't have cable, so I know you have Sling, so you can watch it, but
and I don't know if that's the only place that you can catch it.
You'll have to let me know.
Yeah.
All right, so our featured cast, and you know how to pronounce his name. I was like, really? How do you say his name?
Jovan Adepo. So he plays Larry Underwood. And I do have to mention that Adam Stroke originally played Larry Underwood. So I have to say that I think I've kind of harped on some casting choices of the updated stand, but I am loving the casting choice of Jovan.
Okay, we're actually going to talk a little bit about casting on this episode because I now have... Convincing. He's awesome, but I now have like the original characters in my brain from the book. And in the book, Larry was a skinny white dude who was kind of a hippie. So At first, when I was like watching this, I was like, what? And I'm with you. I love it. I think that this reinvention of Larry Underwood is great. I am completely sold.
Yeah. Yeah, so the original Larry Underwood in the 1994 miniseries, he was a skinny white dude that was kind of like he was a hippie, but he was becoming a yuppie, So, yeah, I really like the way that Jovan is playing the character a lot better. I like the updated storyline for the most part, and we will get into it, but... If Jovan looks familiar, you probably know him from things like HBO's The Leftovers, HBO's Watchmen, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, the series Sorry for Your Loss, and the Biters long lost episode of Overlord.
Marnell thinks we did it. I don't think we did. You guys, is my memory completely shot, which is very possible. Did we talk about Overlord? Because I think we talked about talking about Overlord, but I don't think we ever did. And I really liked the movie. It was a really good movie.
The movie too.
Maybe we did talk about it.
So, like, we could be having the Mandela effect, because I actually was just watching a TikTok video tonight that was, I'll have to send it to you, because I really don't think that they marketed Pop Rocks that way in the 90s, but apparently they did, and that it was a banned commercial, and wow, I feel dirty just having watched it. So,
oh my god, I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay.
If you have TikTok, like, look for the Pop Rocks commercial.
Oh my god.
Because, like, I come from the Mandela Effect universe that did not have that commercial. Like, that didn't exist. So
maybe I come from the universe where we didn't podcast Overlord.
And I came from the one where we did.
I think your universe might be the real universe the more I think about it now. It's been a really long 2020, and 2021 is kind of turning out the same already, so...
I know. I feel like we should reboot the New Year's Eve for February 1st
Right.
because 2020 has bled over into this month. So
Except I don't want to have to drug my poor dog again, so no fireworks.
no fireworks. No.
All right.
In fact, that was
Oh, go ahead.
that was probably the issue that cursed the 2021.
There
it
you
was
go.
the fireworks.
The
So stop doing
4
fireworks.
days straight of fireworks. Okay, so Jovan Adepo. So his name, Jovan, which I thought was really cool, and you knew this too, so we must have read the same article or something. It comes from Jove, which is another name for Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to go back and watch him as Boyce in Overlord again because I enjoyed it so much. But I have to finish The Watchmen.
So one of the things that I need to watch him in is Fences.
Yeah, I heard that was really good. I've never seen it.
So apparently he was the only cast member in Fences that was not part of the original stage play for Fences.
I read that too.
Yeah.
Oh, and he also was in When They See Us.
Yes.
He
which
played
you
one of
have
the
not
adult
watched that.
versions of the kids.
The Central Park 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you have not watched that, I highly recommend watching that.
It was
I
amazing.
think it was a mini series
Yeah.
on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was like 4 episodes. Yeah.
I mean, definitely steel yourself. It is not happy. It is gut-wrenching. It is devastating, but it is totally worth every tear.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't get worse than it's true.
Yeah.
You know, it actually happened.
So I have a happy thing to say about Giovanna Depo also.
Okay.
So he's got a movie in pre-production called Misanthrope, and it's got Shailene Woodley and Ben Mendelsohn, who we know from The Outsider.
Oh.
He played the main detective in The Outsider.
I did not recognize that. I recognized Shailene Woodley.
So I am very much looking forward to that because I'm enjoying him so much, Giovanna Depo, and because I loved The Outsider.
Okay, and so he also has a TV movie coming up that is shown as completed on IMDb. But it's called 5150, and 5150 is the medical code for a psychiatric hold, right? Is that
Oh my god, I didn't know that. I think of 5150 as a Van Halen album with Sammy Hagar and not David Lee Roth. How am I completely dating myself right now?
And do those two things intersect?
They probably do. But now I'm going to have to go on DuckDuckGo because I don't want my search history tracked and look up 5150. 5150
yeah.
meaning. You must have looked it up.
No, I think I watched too many like crime thrillers and listened to too many crime podcasts.
Okay,
that
you are right. 5150 refers to the California law code for the temporary involuntary psychiatric commitment of individuals who prevent a danger to themselves or other due to signs of mentally illness.
So if anybody is looking for a teammate for your Trivial Pursuit team, I'm great at those bar games. I don't even need a smartphone to Google stuff that's totally random knowledge like this.
But I just do also want to say it was also the very first Van Halen album with Sammy Hagar as the lead singer. Thank you very much.
Well, you and I need to do a Trivial Pursuit tour because I think we've proven our chops.
That is so funny.
So the plot of the 5150 movie that he's coming out in sounds super interesting. A world-famous black celebrity is detained at a mysterious psychiatric facility following his erratic behavior and political activism.
Uh-oh, that sounds all too real. He goes from the Stand to that?
Right?
It's like 2020 and 2021.
So I like it would be kind of cool if they could incorporate like maybe The Stand was all his fevered dream.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
And like his political activism was like him being like, you
sucked
know,
into Q.
Yeah, like something like that. Like, you know, like the vaccine has a microchip in it or something. I don't know.
Oh my god, that's awesome. By the way, I'm fully chipped now.
You're okay. So you have a direct line to Bill Gates now.
I do.
Awesome.
I do. He unfortunately has not activated his direct line to my bank account, but
Oh, so the only thing I have to say about 5150, though, that I really hope IMDb is wrong, and it is longer than 18 minutes.
what's it going to be on? Because you said it was a TV movie.
Yeah, and it's completed. That's
all it says.
It says. Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
How's it a movie if it's 18 minutes long?
Yeah,
I would call it a short.
Yeah. I mean, even an episode, a 30-minute episode of a TV show is 22 minutes long plus 8. So, yeah, I don't know how that works out. Hopefully, maybe it's 118 minutes. Like maybe somebody
at IMDb had a little Okay, I have a question for you. And of course now I can't remember what it was. Never mind.
Well, so Jovan only has 2 social medias. There is I want to say it's like not a fan page, but it's not he doesn't have a Facebook
It's not an OnlyFans?
No, it's not an OnlyFans. I haven't checked that. I'll get back to you. But it's a page that you can follow on Facebook, and he is credited as an artist. And it looks like there's a lot of interviews. He does a lot of interviews and posts it on there. So an interview with GQ and Variety, and he did one about The Watchmen and his first time Emmy nomination. So you can go check those out. But he also has, strangely, an Instagram account that looks like it was just started, because he has 5 whole posts on Instagram, and the second one is about his Larry Underwood character. It has 21.5 thousand followers.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So, I originally looked down, I was like, oh, he just started his Instagram. It only has, 5 posts on it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, he doesn't need any pity likes from me, because he's got over 21,000 followers.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
But if you would like to follow him, he is Jovan Adepo on Instagram, and it is blue check verified. So that is really, really him. And he's got this awesome picture on there of him in a claw-footed bathtub with a guitar in front of it. And he's wearing cowboy boots and a fedora. So, I mean, for that alone, go and like him on Instagram.
Because he is pretty easy on the eyes, let's admit it, as a couple of old, real Alaskan housewives.
He is. Which, again, I'm loving the update to Larry Underwood. Nothing against skinny white guys, but as the pigmentally challenged chick in Alaska, he's definitely easy on the eyes.
You glitter in the sunlight.
I do.
You're that pale.
There's a great picture of me on my Facebook where I accidentally forgot to put sunblock on before I walked the dogs. And I tell you, this Alaska was fried, not baked.
And if you don't believe me that she glitters in the sunlight, watch one of our Capes and Lunatics podcasts, because she truly does.
Yes, and we are actually going to be on more podcasts with our Capes and Lunatics movie review team.
Yes, I don't know that the format is public knowledge yet, so say no more right now.
But watch for us in the future, and we will be able to have far bigger potty mouths than we do even on our Real Housewives podcast.
And it will be a pretty diverse slate of films that we will be discussing.
Oh yeah, it'll be a good time.
Well, I had a couple of things to add about Jordan Adepo.
Go right ahead.
Jovan Adepo. Oh my gosh, yep. That was like a complete brain fart. So I read an article about him where he and Benjamin Cavell, one of the director/writers, was interviewed. And he actually said that if he could not be an actor, he would want to be a novelist. His the cause that is closest to his heart in terms of like charitable causes is domestic violence. And he is currently reading the book Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. Which I didn't read. I know you'll be shocked to hear that. But it was a big deal when I worked in the music and bookstore that I worked at while I was putting myself through nursing school. So that was a long time ago.
So he attended Bowie State University in Maryland.
But was born in Oxfordshire, England.
Yes. So he is a Brit.
They describe him as British American.
Yes, because his father was American. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he's got dual citizenship. But
well, they moved here when he was really young, and it sounds like he was a military brat.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. He received his BA in political science and philosophy.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
I love that. So while studying political science, he began taking creative writing classes, and he later decided he wanted to move to LA to become a writer. And so he started doing commercial workshops to supplement his income. So like, where did I read it? He got in connection with Viola Davis's sister.
As long as you don't tell me it was Kirk and Candace Cameron.
No. So through his church in Maryland, he met Viola Davis's older sister, who helped get him in contact with Davis. And so she put him on the path to becoming an actor. And that's probably how he got to act alongside her in the movie Fences.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was like a just a minorly good connection to have.
Right? You know, it almost makes me want to go to church.
No.
I'll go to temple. I'll go to the satanic temple.
Oh my God. Our mother and our sister were over. You made me think of this because you said church today, and they gave me belated birthday presents, which I am not being nasty about. I am so glad to actually have humans in my space now that I'm vaccinated. And it was very nice. But one of the things that was in this rando bag of stuff that she gave me was a candy cane in this little holder that was like totally Jesus-y. And it was saying that candy canes are in the shape of a J because they're symbolic of Jesus. And I looked at her and I was like, you totally know I'm not Jesus-y, right? And she's like, oh, I want the holder back. I just wanted you to have the candy cane. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
She did, however, make a fleece blanket for me that has all sorts of DC characters, including Wonder Woman and Superman, though. So that was very cool. And I'm very,
cool.
very appreciative.
Yes.
But I did give her the Jesus-y candy holder back.
So that actually makes me think of, I'm rewatching True Blood because of Alexander Skarsgård, who's Randall Flagg in The Stand.
Right.
And so I am just at the episodes where, did you ever watch True Blood?
No, I read the very first novel and I watched a few episodes of the first season. And of course, I think we've talked before, I loved the guy who played the character Lafayette.
Yeah, so Lafayette doesn't last as long in the books as he does in the TV show. Because
and didn't that actor pass?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's why I think we talked about him.
Yeah, he was actually doing episodes of Elementary.
Okay.
He had got a reoccurring role on there, and he passed away. But Lafayette actually, in the show, gets a boyfriend, and his name is Jesus. And
my gosh, that's hilarious.
I was like, I would totally have that Jesus in my house.
Yeah, well, I did put the candy cane on my pagan holiday tree, which some people refer to as a Christmas tree, which is still up because I really am leaving it up. And I did get my Wonder Woman Funko that I'm turning into a topper today.
So I've been seeing that everywhere where people have decided to leave their Christmas trees up for year round. And now I'm like, I fell down the rabbit hole a couple of times of Pinterest boards of like how to decorate your Christmas tree for every holiday, like Valentine's Day. And
I don't think I'm going to leave it up
Day.
forever, although I might because I'm lazy. But
okay, we're totally going down a rabbit hole.
We are.
It reminds me of the chick in, God, what was that book we all had to read in like 7th grade English?
I don't know, because it's the Mandela effect, or the Mandala effect, and I think you went to a different 7th grade English than I did.
Oh, it has the character Finn, and like some old lady like takes him in, some rich old lady, and he falls in love with her granddaughter. Only the old lady's
was it one of the god awful like Miss Havisham, George Eliot, Charles Dickens? No, probably not.
Yeah. So it totally was. But the lady, the
you can tell there are definitely some things about English that I did not appreciate. I mean. I think I would have been an English major had I not wanted something that was a little better financial support. But yeah, no, that was not my era of literature that I liked. No.
So the grandmother character in the movie, she got left at the altar like on her wedding day, and so like her house was like just left
frozen in that time.
Yeah, frozen in time. And so like now I picture you as like, like just your house is frozen in time.
You picture me
December
as frozen
2020.
in time? Thanks very much.
Just with your Christmas tree decorations.
That's as bad as our mother giving me a Jesus-y thing and telling me that one of my dogs is fat.
Aww. Who's fat?
According to her, Koba, and I was like, no, actually, Koba looks pretty good. Smalls is fat.
No dogs are fat. They're just extra loved. God, that's gonna bug me that I can't remember the name of that stupid book / movie.
While you're looking at that, I'll just take us very briefly into Whisperer's Corner because I don't have a lot. But here's
Great Expectations.
Great. It was Charles Dickens.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Dickens was not my era at all. And I do think Ms. Havisham was the character in Great Expectations.
Probably. Did you have to read that book in like middle school, high school English?
I had this amazing advanced placement English teacher who was like, and I can't say that she did this with Great Expectations, but with Moby Dick, she was like, this is a terrible book. And you'll be responsible for knowing things about this book as you grow up in our culture. Here are the like 5 chapters of this book that you absolutely have to read to get through this class.
Oh, that's funny.
And that was my nodding acquaintance with Moby Dick. Also not my era.
We all needed a teacher like in 10 Things I Hated About You.
Never watched it.
Oh, so guess who the teacher was? The English teacher was in that.
I don't know.
Daryl Chill Mitchell.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, he was an amazing English teacher. Yes. So anyway,
okay, Whisperer's Corner.
Whisperer's Corner.
So here's your irony alert for January 2021. The attorney who represented Frank Darabont in the Walking Dead Prophets case is suing her former firm, saying she did not get paid her fair share of the fees from that case.
Oh my god. I can't even.
It's your irony alert. Her name is Manzi Shah. And apparently she also represented someone from the TV show Bones and says she didn't get paid her fair share of fees from the case that dealt with Bones either.
Oh.
So, that's your irony alert.
Seriously, who is writing reality now?
Right.
We just completely jumped the shark.
So I do have a little bit about The Stand that I put in Whisperer's Corner, and then I have a bunch about The Stand, the novel, that I put in Housewives Housekeeping, because I finished the novel like 3 or 4 days ago. So Whisperer's Corner, Stephen King actually wrote a new coda for the 2020 series. So I don't know if it's... So there's actually some information about the ending of the updated novel, which I have more info about that. We talked a little bit about that last time. And I'm wondering if this coda has anything to do with that. And you'll be able to maybe shed some light when we get to the end of the series. I don't want to spoil it now by giving up what the new end to the novel was. Anyway, but apparently the very last episode of this series is a new coda that Stephen King wrote, so I'm not even sure it has anything to do with the new end to the novel.
Interesting.
The other thing that I had in the news is that more than 70 people from Hollywood's deaf community sent a letter to CBS All Access protesting the fact that the actor who plays Nick Andros is actually a hearing person. His name is Henry Zaga. And they were protesting that he was cast to play a deaf actor and he's not deaf.
I did see that, and I mean, I can't speak for anybody else who feels outraged, because,
Because it's not your community.
It's not my community, so I can't speak for them. But
yeah.
I kind of have a hard time. I feel...
Like you have a hard time with their perspective, or you have a hard time with the fact that a hearing actor was cast? I'm curious. I'm not attacking you.
No. I do have a hard time with their perspective, because I'm just like, roles should just go to, whatever actor. It's sort of like they updated Larry Underwood for the role, but like the casting wasn't for a skinny white guy. It was for Larry Underwood, and
So I will say, which I thought was interesting, and this is just kind of an alternative take. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm not sure that I have strong feelings one way or the other. I can see both sides.
Yeah.
But they actually interviewed a woman who was born deaf or lost her hearing very early. I can't remember what her story was. And then her hearing was largely restored through a surgical procedure, and she will not take deaf roles. She said, I spent so many years on the sideline and being like minimized that I'm not going to participate in that now.
And I can totally see that, because I do have to think that it is probably more, and of course, everything is more difficult when you have some sort of disability, no matter what it is.
This goes back to our conversation on The Real Housewives about Far From the Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Far From the Tree the book talks quite extensively about the deaf community and being in the deaf community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really hope that we do expand our horizons as far as also casting deaf people for roles that weren't originally meant to be a deaf character, just that that person's that character. I wonder, still happen to be deaf now.
I'm wondering if Nick Andros had been changed in the story. So in the book, he is deaf mute. And he's portrayed that way in the series as well. And I'm assuming he was portrayed that way in the 94 series.
He what?
I'm wondering if his character had been completely changed to be that of a speaking person, if there would have been outcry about the character essentially being erased by being turned into a speaking person. I'm just curious.
I'm sure it would be, and I don't think I would have cared for that update. In fact, I actually didn't even care for the updated now he only has one eye,
which is actually true to the book.
Okay.
Yes, because the people who beat him in the bar where you first meet him, and so he's like in a small town, and you meet him in a very small town, and he's fairly isolated because of the pandemic, and he's stuck in that small town because he got beaten up in a bar. And one of the people responsible for that beating injured his eye, and that's why he only has vision in one eye.
Very, very similar to the 1994 series, only they left out the part where he lost partial vision. He was beat terribly by a group from the small town, but he did not lose the eye.
So the thing that's
Uh,
super interesting in the book is there's some reflecting on the part of the character where he's like, imagine if I'd lost my sight completely and I could not see, hear, or speak.
yeah, yeah, and I that's it's an interesting thing, and I wonder why they left it out of the 1994 series, knowing now that it's in the book, and they put it in this one. It's an interesting perspective because Flagg is actually he when he's being beaten into unconsciousness, Flagg comes to him and is like, what if I took your sight too? And like that would be terrifying as someone who can't hear or speak to now lose that other important sense. Yeah, that would just be.
So, having just finished the book, and this kind of leads into Housewives Housekeeping, and having now gotten 4 episodes, I know that episode 5 came out this week. I haven't had time to watch it yet. Now 4 episodes into this, and having read a few things about some artistic decisions that were made for the 1994 series, I just think what was left out of the 94 series that was in the book and what was put in this that was in the book that wasn't in the 94 series. I mean, it's just really, really fascinating to me, the different artistic choices that have been made as this property has been reworked multiple times, because it also was reworked from the original 1978 book. I was right. It was re-released in 1990 and it was advertised as the complete uncut edition. And they basically restored like 150,000 words that Stephen King edited out for his original book.
Wow.
Basically, the editors were like, look, this book is almost 1,200 pages. There is no way anybody's going to read this book. You're insane. You need to make it a lot shorter. So he managed to get it down to like 900 pages. And then when he re-released it in 1990, it went up to 1,152 pages. It was moved forward 10 years and he updated a whole bunch of cultural references. So I was right last time when I said there's stuff that just seemed like it was really out of context for 1978. It's because he had updated it. The other thing that I learned that was really interesting, and I saw some panels while I was reading the novel on my Kindle, and I was like, what's this? I don't remember this. Bernie Wrightson, who was one of the creators of Swamp Thing, did a bunch of illustrations for Stephen King, and they were put in the 1990 version of the novel.
Huh.
Yeah.
Picture books. I could get into that.
Well, there aren't that many pictures. And the other thing, and you won't know this because you haven't read the novel, and it sounds like this character didn't make it into either version in a very meaningful way, although it sounds like Trash Can Man has some flashbacks to him in the 94 miniseries. There's a character called the Kid that Trash Can Man gets hooked up with on the road. Oh my god. So they actually tell the story of the few days that Trash Can Man spends with the Kid on the road, and they are horrifying.
Okay, now I want to read him.
Horrifying. And Randall Flagg basically engineers the Kid's end as a reward to Trashy. Yeah.
Now I don't know if I want to read him.
The other thing that I learned while I was doing some reading about the book, which, by the way, totally held up. I'm so glad I reread it. They actually did a series of comics for Marvel Comics from 2008 to 2012, and it was a comic series of The Stand.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? I didn't know that.
No.
And then there is actually a brand new epilogue in the 1990 version of the book that shows us a little more about Randall Flagg. But I don't know if that has anything to do with the, quote, new coda that Stephen King wrote for this miniseries. So we'll have to talk about it more when we finally get through this miniseries.
Interesting.
Couple more things about The Stand. So apparently Stephen King almost stopped writing it because he got a bad case of writer's block. So the book almost didn't happen and almost didn't get finished.
I can't imagine that he like wouldn't finish it. Like the man is a prolific writer. Okay, he could have taken a couple years off of it, but
so he ultimately made the decision that he like didn't like some of the choices that his characters were making. And that was when, oh, how can I say this without giving things away for people who haven't read it or watched anything? There are some pretty significant deaths that happen about halfway through, and I'm not going to say anything more than that because we'll talk about it when we get there in the miniseries. And he basically decided to make those deaths happen because he felt like that would push the characters back toward making better decisions, and that's what got him through his writer's block.
Huh.
He envisioned it as a contemporary American epic, and one of his inspirations was Lord of the Rings.
I did hear that, yes. And I don't think I would have ever made that connection if it were not pointed out to me.
I don't think I would have either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just...
I mean, it's pretty cool, but I don't think I would have realized that.
And I get it once you point it out to me, but I don't think I would have gone there myself. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, just really quickly back to the kid. Did you see ScreenRant.com's article
that Marilyn
from a month
Manson
ago?
was going to be the person who played the kid?
Yes.
So let me just tell you, he would have been perfect because the kid is such a horrifying character.
So Manson had been in contact with I think the producer, Josh Boone.
He's one of the writers and directors.
Okay.
And he probably also has producer credits as well. It wouldn't surprise me.
But because the show was made on a very tight budget, the side character of the kid, his storyline was left on the wayside. But Marilyn Manson did do a cover of The End by The Doors for this reboot for The Stand.
Cool. I didn't read that far into the article, so that's really cool. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
There's been a couple of Marilyn Manson songs in the past that I have liked, but he is making some amazing music right now. Have you heard God's Gonna Cut You Down?
No.
Oh my God, I have to send it to you.
Yes, you have to.
It's very like country, dark country. Like, it's great. Yeah. Marilyn, and there's a couple more songs that Marilyn's come out with in the past couple of months, I believe, that I'm just like, okay, he is not a great interview on Talking Dead, but he is an amazing musician.
So that reminds me of a song from my youth called Country Death Song, which I'll have to go back and find. So the only other thing I have for Housewives housekeeping is that because I enjoyed rereading The Stand so much, and because I enjoyed The Outsider so much when we watched it, and by the way, if you haven't listened to Aim for the Head's coverage of The Outsider, Marnell assures me it's great. I haven't listened to it yet because there's kind of part of me that's entertaining a rewatch of The Outsider, but that's also the part of me that's entertaining a rewatch of The Mandalorian, so...
So if anybody remembers me talking about it on any of the other podcasts, I had a really, really hard time getting into watching The Outsider. I think I tried twice, and I probably made it through like maybe 2.5 episodes, and I couldn't get into it. So watching an episode and listening to Aim for the Head really, really helped me. It was like there was just too much going on for me to settle out in my head, and listening to Aim for the Head really helped me with that. So I was able, and I totally got into watching The Outsider.
And it was great.
And I did it episode by episode. I did episode of Outsider, episode of Aim for the Head, episode of Outsider, episode, and totally recommend doing that.
So I was trying to figure out what to read, and I told you before we logged on tonight that I had heard somewhere when we watched The Outsider, and you said that Steve and Diana mentioned this as well, that the character of Holly Gibney, who, again, if you haven't seen The Outsider, you got to watch it. She first appears in a book called Mr. Mercedes, which is a Stephen King book, of course. And it turns out that Mr. Mercedes is first in a trilogy that Stephen King calls the Bill Hodges trilogy. Bill Hodges is a retired detective. Anyway, that's where Holly Gibney first makes an appearance, and I was like, oh, I think I want to read that at some point because I liked Holly Gibney so much. Well, it's totally not supernatural, at least not so far. It's a detective novel, and it's great, and I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I downloaded a sample to my Kindle, and I started it the other night, and I was like, I'm not entirely sure. And by the end of, like, the first chapter, I was like, I'm sucked in. And I'm probably not only going to read all 3 Bill Hodges novels, but I'm going to read The Outsider as well.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I totally recommend reading the Screen Rant article about
Marilyn Manson
character, because I'm actually really disappointed that they left this character out by the description of him.
Oh, like, my God, he's horrifying.
And you're right, Marilyn Manson was like right on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have had to have made him blonde and given him like a big pompadour, but I think Marilyn Manson could have totally pulled it off.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And in terms of just being utterly horrifying, I think Marilyn Manson would have been great.
Yeah, like described as a violent sociopath who drives a 1934 Ford Deuce Coupe.
Yes. Ugh. All right, I don't have anything else.
Now they need to remake the remake.
They need to remake the remake and include all the stuff that they didn't include in the remake, that maybe some of which they included in the OG series.
Exactly.
They need to remake it word for word from the 1990 update and uncut version.
Get on that, Stephen King and Josh Boone.
And Owen King, Stephen King's son.
Oh, that's right.
Who's part of this series.
That's right.
He's one of the writers of episode 3.
Which we will never get to because we can't stop talking about episode 2.
And my phone keeps going off because someone keeps sending stuff to me. I don't know who that is.
I sent you one thing.
Well, but my phone gripes at me twice unless I acknowledge it. So there we are.
Well, fix your settings.
It's an iPhone. It's dummy proof. All right. Goods, bads, and uglies. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
Okay. So my good is actually Greg Kinnear. So I fell back in love with the character Glenn Bateman. He is such an interesting character, and I'm a little concerned that he's gonna get short shrift, and I hope he doesn't, because in the book he's a philosophy teacher, like a retired philosophy instructor, and he's very funny. I mean, he's smart, and he like waxes and wanes on, maybe he's a sociology instructor actually, but waxes and wanes on society and the downfall of society and the recreation of society. Anyway, he was a great character in the book. I fell back in love with him. I'm totally enjoying Greg Kinnear's portrayal of him. And I just want to say, by the way, we get Kojak, who's really important. I don't know if Kojak was important in the OG series, but Kojak is important in the book.
He was standout. It's kind of one of the things that brought Glenn Bateman and Stu Redman together was that Stu was like,
he's more important than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was not that important in the 1994 version, but I absolutely agree with you in that Greg Kinnear was a great casting update. No offense to Ray Walston. But I don't know. He's got a younger energy and
and he's kind of so the energy that Glenn has in the book is like thoughtful, a little bit sad, kind of wry. And I think that Greg Kinnear has captured that really well.
Yeah, so I maybe it's because I'm older than I was in 1994, obviously. Um, but I kind of I feel this Glenn Bateman a lot more than I did in the 1994 version. It like I think he has kind of a they've they did add that sort of like he waxes philosophically about society and things like that. Whereas he was kind of a side character, I think, in the 94 version. Like I said, I did a rewatch I basically through the first half, because it is 6 hours long, and it's kind of hard to delineate where we are in the 9 episodes versus the original 4 episode miniseries that's now just one 6 hour long movie.
Which I am going to watch once we're done with this.
Yes, I am super stoked for you to do that, because I will be interested to see if you have the feeling that I have, where like I liked the original better. I like a lot of things in the update, but you read the book, so you'll have a completely different perspective.
I do want to say one more thing before I finish my good, and then it's your turn.
Mm-hmm.
So Kojak, we actually get a little bit of his internal monologue in the book, which is kind of fun. So his name was actually Big Steve before the pandemic. And there's like a bit toward the end where Kojak is like really happy, and he's like something, 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 like back in the day when he was Big Steve. It was just really neat. It was really neat.
I am all about getting the dog's perspective.
Well, and it was just, yeah. I'm just happy to have the big lug in the story. And I love a golden retriever. They are such good dogs. Like, you don't have to train a golden retriever. All you have to do is look at them cross-eyed and they're like, I'm sorry, what would you like me to do? Can I get that for you?
I've never owned a golden retriever.
Oh my God, they're so... I haven't either. I had a friend who had one, and then I actually had a student when I was a school nurse who had one as a service dog. And let me tell you, that dog completely changed her life.
Yeah, they do make great service dogs. I
Oh
like
my
my
gosh.
difficult huskies that chew on furniture.
What was that $400 dog bed? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. With a $100 cover. Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yep. It's a 7-inch orthopedic. I have 3 of them. He, of course, did not chew the one that he normally lays on. He chewed the one his sister normally lays on.
Okay, people, I just want you to hear that. She has 3 of them. I felt guilty about spending some money on makeup and hair this weekend.
So, I mean, it was it was before Bandit died, and Bandit was getting up there in years, and then Phoenix has she's had hip surgery, so I bought special orthopedic beds for my dogs, and of course they lay on the couches more they lay on their dog bed. But I will
The people
tell you
lay
that,
on the
like,
orthopedic dog bed.
every once in a while I will lay down on the dog bed, and then of course they want to lay on them with me. But I did not order 3, I ordered 2, and because that's one of the perks of living in Alaska is like when something is shipped to you accidentally, the company's like, oh God, it's way too expensive to ship it back to us. Just keep it. Yeah. So
Amazon has done that a couple of times, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not ecstatic about it, but if you're going to give it to me, I'll keep it.
Yeah, I totally got a $400 dog bed out of the deal. So shout out to Big Barker for that. But yeah, so I like my difficult huskies. Like, golden retrievers are great. They're great family dogs. They're great service dogs. But yeah, I love my jerks, my jesters of the dog world.
Well, you know, I've had a few huskies in my time, so
Right?
just a few.
Now you're into fussy little dogs or barky little dogs.
No, I still have my giant smalls.
You do.
All right, you're good.
So, my good, of course, was a quintessential Stephen King moment. Um, I know that you have a problem with the sewer scene with Larry, but when his mom came floating
Which
by,
is not in the book.
and
But
like
yes, that was
she's full on
horrifying.
talking to him, and like Larry, and then the rat comes out of her
Yes. Isn't it
mouth,
more
and
than
like
one rat?
I think, yeah, it probably was, but like it was creepy. It was horrifying. It had shades of We All Float Down Here. Like I loved it. It like you said, it wasn't part of the book. It wasn't part of the 1994 series, but I was living for it because it was creepy and it was scary, and I love creepy and scary. That's why I like Stephen King movies.
Which,
But
by the way, the whole "We All Float Down Here," I'm assuming that's an It reference, which I never
mhm.
watched It. But Stephen King is so meta that I'm like reading Mr. Mercedes, and he's talking about his main character in Mr. Mercedes, like a case that he's on. There's a mask that the perpetrator wears, and it's like, like that clown from the movie. And then his partner makes that comment to him, and so he like eventually sits down and watches the movie It, and he's like, yeah, it is kind of like that clown in the sewer.
I love it.
Stephen King is so meta.
I think we talked about that last episode because of the antiques shop looking like the Needful Things antique shop.
You
And
mentioned that. That's right. And I don't think I've
yeah,
read Needful Things. I think I was confusing it in my brain with the Tommyknockers, which is a book that I read by Stephen King like back in the 80s,
yeah.
which
And
was a creepy book.
and there was also a reference to dairy in
Yes, you
last
said
episode.
that. Yeah.
And so I love it. Like I would love to know how his brain just goes, that book that I'm gonna write 3 years from now, I should add a reference to it in this book. Like that's just amazing. I love that. I love that when writers do like
Actually,
Joss.
honestly, while I was reading Mr. Mercedes today, I was like, I'm a little scared of how Stephen King's brain works because it's a little No, it's more than a little creepy. It's really creepy.
So he has this whole like multiverse thing where there's like different universes. And I think that Stephen King is from one of those creepy universes with Randall Flagg. Yeah, like I just
But not where he has the name Randall Flagg, but where he has one of the other names with the initials RF. Because that's one of
yes.
the things in the book, and I don't know if it's legit in the series, but he like goes through different names, but they all have the initials RF.
Yeah. Yeah. I like I just think that man is on a different level than we are.
He's pretty
You
fascinating.
know?
Do you remember when he was hit by that driver and almost died?
I know, I don't.
Yeah, and it was, 10, 15 years ago, easily that long ago. And
Really?
he was almost killed.
So was that before or after he wrote Thinner?
I don't remember. He was out for like a morning walk. He goes and walks every day, and it was someone, I don't think the person was particularly being reckless. I don't think that it was like a drunk driver thing. I think it was just a horrible accident. Now I'm going to have to look
Accident.
it up.
Yeah. So if you are not familiar with the plot of Thinner, which of course I didn't read the book, I watched the movie.
Which
A
I did both.
a man, I don't know if he was drunk driving or not, but a man hits a, and I'm going to use the word, and I know it's kind of a slur nowadays, but they were called gypsies back in the day. He hit a gypsy woman, and I can't remember if she cursed him or like if their family cursed him or something. The man was very, very large.
Yes.
And it was kind of like the monkey's paw where he got the wish that like,
Right, I
he
wish to
started
be
getting
thinner. Yeah.
And, he started getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And then he couldn't keep the weight on. And like he was just wasting away. And it was because, of the gypsy's curse. And so I kind of did art imitate life or did life imitate art? That's
Okay, so
really crazy.
here's this is like a very brief look. So, um, it was 1999 and he was out walking and the driver was distracted and hit him. It threw him into a ditch and he was seriously injured but survived, obviously. He bought the van so that fans would not try to get their hands on the souvenir.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
The guy who hit him died a year later, basically, not exactly a year later, but died on September 21st, 2000, Stephen King's 53rd birthday, due to an overdose of painkillers.
Oh.
And Stephen King's comment was, "Our lives came together in a strange way. I'm grateful I didn't die. I'm sorry he's gone."
Oh.
And
So
this guy was between 89 and 98, was convicted 11 times for DUI and speeding.
okay, so here I was thinking that maybe he, when he hit Stephen King and almost killed him, his life went downhill. But it kind of sounded
No,
like
it sounds like it was.
headed there. Okay.
And he, oh my God. So he was distracted by his dog. One of his Rottweilers, Bullet, was trying to get into a cooler full of beer. So while Smith was trying to stop him, he swerved off to the road into the exact spot where Stephen King happened to be walking.
Oh my God.
Okay, how
Okay.
crazy is this? This is the very last thing I'll say, and then it's your good. Stephen King still wears the lenses from the accident. In his book on writing, a memoir of the craft, King said, "The frames were bent and twisted, but the lenses were unbroken. They are the lenses I'm wearing now as I write this."
Wait a minute. Your prescription has not changed?
I guess I wanted to say that things we ordinarily would see as quite fragile aren't necessarily that fragile. It's true of the glasses and it's true of me. I got bent, I got busted around a lot, but I'm still here.
Wow. So Thinner came out, the novel came out in 1984 and the movie came out in 1996. So life kind of imitated art. And like the horrible, terrible person in me, like, wonders if Stephen King thought about that after he had been hit. Like, oh, I wrote a book and a movie about this and now it happens to me.
Wow. After the accident, Stephen King gave $240,000 in charity funds to the rescue service and medical centers that helped him. He also created the Haven Foundation to help other writers, artists, and freelancers who are unable to work due to injury or illness.
Of course he did, because, like, the man is on a different level. Like, he's amazing.
Wow. Oh.
Okay, so
Okay.
my good.
Sorry, you're good. I'm sorry. That was like, I mean, we really went down a rabbit hole, and we are now well past the length of this episode, and I'm sorry, but
So
here we are.
I don't. It wasn't in the book. It wasn't in the original movie. It was just a creepy scene, like you said. It's completely.
Oh yeah,
meta.
yeah, Mom.
I
I'm
love it.
sorry. That was your good,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we got completely distracted about how meta Stephen King is.
Yep. So what is your bad?
My bad is actually the way that two of the female characters have been reworked.
Yes, this is my bad too.
Oh,
Awesome.
interesting. Okay, Rita and Nadine.
Uh-huh.
So in the book, Rita is very pathetic and dependent and kind of weak. And the first time Larry sees her, like, she looks younger and, you know, is kind of interesting and seductive and funny. And then, like, the more time he spends with her, he realizes just kind of how pathetic and dependent and I dare I say it, now that I've turned 50, old she actually is. And there's actually a scene in the book, and it's the scene where it's kind of adjacent to where they're accosted by the guys who want to pay him $1 million for her for 15 minutes with her. So she is like limping, and he looks down, and she's wearing these ridiculous strappy sandals. And he gets really, like, you know, like a New York socialite who's never had to do anything like run for her life would, right? And he gets so angry with her, and it's fascinating because it's all part of Larry's trip about, I'm a horrible person, I'm a terrible person, I'm a horrible person, I'm not redeemable, and his anger with Rita is part of that, part of his internal monologue. But But so they totally change her in this series, and she's like strong and funny, and she's the person who like kind of rescues him and gets him calmed down when he gets out of the sewer and is like, "You're okay, look, we made it, you made it," which ultimately makes her overdose totally unbelievable.
Yes.
And in the book, her overdose is not even remotely unbelievable because she's worn and pathetic and sad and dependent, and yeah. And then Nadine in the book, and again, I don't know if this is like how you saw her in the series that you watched originally, but in the book, she's like pretty conflicted and like she's really pulled toward Flagg, but she's also a little bit grossed out, and she's not seductive and controlling and powerful like she is with Harold at the end of this episode. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. No, maybe I think I'm ahead. I think I may be talking about the next episode that I watched.
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry. Give it away. Oh, spoiler alert. Too late. But Nadine is very much changed in this. So the reworking, the changing of those characters.
So mine was these two characters, but it was slightly different. So in the did you have more?
No. It's slightly different. That's interesting to me.
Okay, so in the 1994 version, he does not meet Rita first.
Right, he actually meets Nadine.
He meets Nadine first.
I read that, which is not how it goes down in the book. It goes down in the book much more similarly to the way it goes down in this series.
Right, so he meets Nadine in New York, and he flees New York with her. And so they also changed the fact that from the 1994 version, Nadine was the one that had a pill problem. And in this one,
which totally would not have been tolerated by Flagg. Because one of the things that, I don't know if this is true in what you watched, but one of the things that happens in Flagg's community is drug use is not tolerated at all.
They didn't touch on that in the 1994 version, but
they do in the book.
In the 94 version, Larry doesn't have a drug problem. He actually is the one that throws away Nadine's pills because she freaks out because she doesn't want to go through the tunnels. And he's like, we walked all, because she's like, she has a problem with the dark and confined spaces. Which, like,
Rita actually freaks out and doesn't want to go through the tunnels. But
right.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to go through the sewers. And,
but they actually go through Franklin Tunnel also, and she doesn't want to go through. And
they didn't in the, they didn't want to. Yeah, Nadine didn't want to in the 94 version. And so she like runs off to go over the bridge. And, that's like, another half a day's walk away. They should have headed in that direction earlier, but she thought she could make it, and she gets there and she can't, and he gets mad. And so he goes through the tunnel, and he kind of has like the sewer freak out in the tunnel. Where he starts to kind of see things, not exactly his mom floating by or rats coming, but there are some like rat things and everything. Well, he starts freaking out and he starts shooting at a sound, and it actually winds up being Nadine.
And it's Rita in the book.
Yeah, who had somehow magically made a half a day's walk, like over, like, I don't know. It seemed like she came from the other side of the tunnel. So like, not like she was behind him, like she came from where they were going. And I'm like, okay, whatever, magic time travel, whatever. So then basically she doesn't want to sleep with Larry, because she's like saving herself for Flagg.
Right.
And so she winds up splitting off with Larry, and Larry gets to Colorado, and he hooks up
with Lucy.
With Rita. Yeah, he hooks up with Lucy.
Right.
There is no Rita character in the 1994 version. It's Nadine, then Lucy. There is no Rita.
So crazy.
They conflated Rita and Nadine in the 1994
into one
version.
character.
Yeah. And so it's very weird what they like. Yeah, it's
Which actually,
it really messed with me because I was like, one, like, okay, they should have made one of them like blonde and one brunette. Yes, I know who Heather Graham is, and I also know who Amber Heard is, but they are very similar looking, I think. All blonde white chicks look alike. I don't know.
And so the way that Nadine appears in the book, and it very much is ingrained in my brain as this is what Nadine looks like. She's got dark hair with white streaks.
Okay, so
and she's very, and it's very stunning. She's more striking as opposed to sexy.
I'm going to slaughter her name, but in the 1994 version,
Laura
Nadine was played by Giacomo. Okay, thank you.
Giacomo. Can't remember, but yeah, I looked that up today.
And I think we all know and love her from a couple of movies.
She was in Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. She was in Quigley Down Under.
Yes, that's right.
She was a reoccurring character on the television show Just Shoot Me. I absolutely love her. So in the movie, she went from having dark brown hair, which was it looks like a wig because man, that girl has some thick hair. But she goes from having dark brown hair and it starts to get lighter white and gray. And basically by mid, I don't want to say mid movie, but mid her role in the movies.
Right.
Her hair is completely white by the end of it. I mean, it's like Khaleesi white, you know?
Yes, there is some shocking stuff that happens to her in the book and she goes completely white, like overnight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, it's not going to be that much of a transition with Amber Heard
right.
hair.
Yeah, I don't like the way that they reworked both of these characters because they changed the feel of them so much.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was actually doing
okay
confusing. I was doing okay with Amber Heard initially, and I'm sorry that I, in my brain, conflated episodes 2 and 4 because I just watched episode 4 last night as well. But I will tell you that the way that they portray Nadine by episode 4 is very different from the way she is in the book.
So I will say that it is very consistent with the way that she was portrayed in the 94 version.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just because like she's so tortured by Flagg. Like she really does have this like love-hate, like like you said, she's drawn to him, but she's also like squicked out by him.
And I don't get that feeling from her at all in this series. I get the feeling where by the time she shows her true colors, as it were, she's like totally hooked into the whole Randall Flagg thing.
Yeah, and we will get into that in next episode.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm totally like confusing them in my brain because I went back and watched this and then went forward and watched episode 4 because I hadn't watched episode 4 yet. So that's my bad. So
we both had the same bad, but it was slightly different because mine is the 1994 miniseries version and yours is the book version.
Very
and they've rearranged it all for the reboot.
They completely screwed up both characters. And by the way, it is heartbreaking to me to see Roller Girl old enough to play an aging socialite.
Okay, but did you see the pictures that Heather Graham just posted the other day in a bikini?
Oh, I bet she's gorgeous. And by the way, the scene where it's showing the two of them in bed together and they're kind of straddling each other sitting up, I was like, she still looks incredible.
Yeah, she's a witch. She has made a pact with the actual devil. And
not
the
Satanic Temple devil.
No, not the Satanic Temple devil, the Randall Flagg devil.
That's so funny.
She doesn't age.
That is
She's
so
amazing.
Funny.
I think she looks better than she did as Roller Girl.
And which, by the way, we will be at some point in our future talking Boogie Nights with a group of podcasters. So that ought to be fun.
So we had pretty much the same bad, but kind of from different perspectives. What was your ugly?
So my ugly, and I'm stealing a page from your book. I'm not sure if it's good or a bad ugly because I am not sure if I like the changes that they've made or if I feel like the changes are pandering to we want to be really diverse. But as we talked about already, Larry was a long-haired hippie white dude. Ray Brentner in this series is a Native American woman with thus far a very small role, and played by Irene Bedard, which I didn't realize. Mm-hmm. In the novel, Ray Brentner is actually Ralph Brentner. Ralph has a fairly significant role. He's one of the original members of the Boulder Free Zone Committee. But now he's a Native American woman, and he's like Mother Abigail's guardian.
Yeah, so I've
got it. Oh, go ahead.
I don't really remember the character from the 94 miniseries.
I won't say Ralph was a giant character in the book, but he was a fairly significant character in the book.
So the only thing that I can think of is there was a character named Ray Flowers in the 94 version, and it was played by Kathy Bates. That was originally a man in the book. Yes. And Ray Flowers was a syndicated radio show host.
Oh, okay. Is that the radio show host who's talking when Harold is listening to the radio in Maine?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Not the same character. Not at all.
Okay.
No. So actually, Ralph Brentner, again, is a character in Colorado, a member of the Boulder Free Zone Committee, and a fairly significant character.
Okay, so there was a Ralph. I don't really remember the character. Peter Van Norden was Ralph. Huh.
So the other thing is, was Judge Ferris a character in the 94 series?
I believe so.
So I don't want to say what Judge Ferris does because I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't read the book or watched the 94 series, but Judge Ferris is like a 70-ish white dude.
Oh,
and
yes.
In this, okay. Judge Ferris is now an older white woman.
Okay, so that's okay. That's another reason those things surrounding the confusion of the whole mishmashing of characters and kind of changing them up. Like I said, I mean, we've liked a lot of the updates, but the Judge Ferris character was played by Ossie Davis.
Right, who I love.
Yes,
if you've never watched Bubba Hotep,
Men.
you have to watch Bubba Hotep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
God, I haven't watched that movie in forever.
We may have to do Bubba Hotep at some point, although I'm not sure that we could talk about it without getting a little vulgar.
Oh, Grumpy Old Men might be one for the movie review club, too.
Oh, fun. So anyway, so I'm not sure. I mean, I think some of the casting choices are great. I mean, we both are on the same page as far as the casting choice with Larry. But there's also part of me that's like, is it pandering to suddenly have a middle-aged white guy who's an Army veteran be a Native American woman? Is it pandering to have someone who is an elderly white dude suddenly be an older white woman? Or is it just kind of a cool update and an interesting take on things?
For me, at this point, it's just confusing. Because there are so many characters in the book, in the movie, in the miniseries.
And so that kind of goes to one of the troubles that you had with The Outsider, which was that it was really complex because there were so many characters and storylines to juggle.
And I do the same thing with like books and movies. I had a really hard time. I never really could get into the Girl Who Played with Fire. That book series.
The Hunger Games?
No. The Girl Who Kicked a Hornet's Nest.
Oh, you're thinking the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yes, that one. I couldn't get into that because, like, the first two chapters, they mentioned, like, 600 family member names, and I'm like, I need a chart.
I read the first 3 books, and then I fell off. I didn't read the last book, which was, like, partially written by oh my God, my brain is fried, and it literally was a very short pour of my wine. The author of the author died before the last book
Mm-hmm.
was released, and I don't know if it was like his son or his grandson. It was somebody that had some knowledge of his writing style and his writing.
He had started a draft.
Right. And then the person like fleshed it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. So
I do the same thing with Game of Thrones, where like the book, I need a chart. I need a visual chart of like all of these characters and how they relate to each other, because I cannot hold that much in my mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I came away with was I just finished the book, and there are big themes and like the main characters who stand out, but there are a couple of like smaller characters where I'm like, now how were they in the book again? And I just finished the book, but it also, to be fair, was 1,200 pages long. So
so no, I don't think it's pandering to make an old white dude an updated Native American female for this show. I really think they were trying to modernize it. To me, pandering is doing things like making Starbuck a woman.
Yeah,
that's pandering.
All right, what was your ugly?
My ugly is something we kind of already mentioned. So in the middle of New York, when the guys come out of nowhere and they offer Larry $1 million in cash.
Right. I mean, who's going to take that bargain in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, I'm like, foods, ammunition.
Right.
Like, those are the currency. Like, nobody wants your Benjamins, dude. Like, get out of here. Yeah, you can take it at gunpoint, sure, but like, really, you're gonna offer me money? Like, no, nobody's gonna do that. Like, a week ago, I was worried about, is cash still the currency of the day, or is it ammunition? Like, we are kind of getting to that point in modern society.
We are.
So do not. I mean, absolutely. If you want to offer me $1 million right now for anything, I'll probably take it. But it's really just going to buy, canned goods and ammo.
Right. Because a month from now, is that $1 million going to be worth anything? Maybe not.
Exactly. So I was just like, really? Like, is anyone going to take $1 million? Especially like, no, I got a hot chick with me. Like, I don't need your kindling over there. It's okay.
Although, honestly, at that point in the novel, I'm sure that there was a part of Larry that was like, okay, she's wearing these strappy shoes that have eaten into her feet and she can't walk. And she doesn't look as good in the daylight as she did in the dark. And maybe $1 million wouldn't be a bad idea after all, even if it's not worth anything.
I think I would bargain up. I'd be like $1 million and a ham sandwich, okay? As low as I'm gonna go.
Oh my god, we're awful. We're horrible people. Just like Larry, we're horrible people.
We are. But that is why you are here, is to listen to us say the horrible things that you are all thinking.
Which completely takes us into rotting potpourri, because I have lots more horrible things to say.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Like, just horrible things about people.
So, one of the horrible things that they left out of the 1994 version was Lloyd eats a rat.
He does in the book, too.
He does not have a cellmate in the 94 version to eat. So
he dines on a rat, and the person is not actually in his cell. Trask is adjacent to his cell, but they have, like, an adjoining, like, wall, and he's able to get to Trask. So he does have a calf sandwich.
Not a ham sandwich.
Right. Not a beef sandwich, a calf sandwich.
So I do not like the updated Lloyd.
I don't have your frame of reference, so that's going to be really interesting.
So the originally Lloyd was played by Miguel Ferrer, Ferrer, and you will recognize him from a ton of stuff.
The name sounds kind of familiar.
RoboCop, Twin Peaks, what's that? Crossing Jordan. That was a good show back in the day.
Yeah.
The Protector. He's been in a couple CSIs. He was in The Bionic Woman.
Oh my gosh, he passed away. Did you know that?
Did he?
Yeah, he died in 2017.
Aww.
Yeah, no, I totally recognize his face.
Oh, the other day Tommy Lasorsa died, and I'm like, oh, Tommy Lasorsa was still alive?
Right? Oh my god, that's horrible. We're horrible people.
We are. Miguel was in Fallen Angels, but I absolutely loved him in The Stand. He was a very charismatic Lloyd. Like
Interesting.
the character that I don't think it's the actor. I think that the way that Lloyd is written now, he just seems like he's like cocky, and he's just like he's half cocked like 100% of the time. Like the Lloyd from the 94 movie he was like Flagg made him a leader for a reason. He was charismatic. He had a conscience. He was smart.
I would say that the Lloyd in the book is a little more grounded and a little more thoughtful.
Yeah.
But not, when I think about it, how I envision him in my head, not entirely different in appearance. Although it may be because I'm heavily influenced by seeing these characters in my eye.
Right. Right. Like I said, I will definitely be interested to get your take on the different casting choices, because there are some good ones out there and there are some not so great ones out there.
Which, by the way, the guy who plays Poke, who has a very short role in the book and the series, that's Lloyd's partner in crime, totally made me think of Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Huh, I see it, but like, I wouldn't have gone there myself.
I actually Googled it. I was like, is that Flea? No, it wasn't. I think Flea's a bit older than that now, but...
Yeah, and I don't think he's aged as well as Heather Graham
right.
has.
I mean,
nobody's
right.
aging as well as she has, but
because of her deal with Satan, Randall Flagg. So Wayne Stuckey, the character who... Larry stole the hook from Baby Can You Dig Your Man from. I don't remember him being as malevolent and as horrible in the novel as he is in his very brief appearance in the series. I mean, the way that he kind of stalks and torments and like shows up outside of Larry's apartment, and I just don't remember him being that horrible.
He is a new character for me. He was not in the 1994 version.
He's in the book. He's not in the book for super long, and he definitely is like, you stole my song. But, you know, more like, I want my $2.
I love that movie. Better Off Dead if you don't know which movie we are referencing.
You know, I have to say I've been enjoying the soundtrack, and we haven't even gotten to the Marilyn Manson song yet, and all I can think is that CBS must own the rights to some really good music.
I'm sure they do. Oh my god, can we talk about Home Plate Masturbator?
Oh, so Home Plate Masturbator is in the book.
He was not in the 1994 movie, and that I missed out. Like, I love it. It's hilarious.
The funny thing is he's a relatively young dude in the book, but he basically has the same fantasy. He's like, yep, I'm going to go run around Yankee Stadium, and then I'm going to masturbate over home plate.
I mean, you know, you do you. You're not hurting anyone else.
It is a pandemic, and most people are dead after all. Enjoy. And that bag of chips looks wonderful.
Just walking around, enjoying the breeze. Who needs real clothes? I mean, I get it. Like,
it does seem like a relatively warm fall in New York, so...
it does. It does. I am not walking around my house enjoying the breeze because I keep my house relatively cold.
That's my understanding.
It's basically a meat locker in here.
Yeah, I keep my house pretty warm. You would probably suffocate.
I think that I would. I cannot sleep when it's hot, which is why I live in Alaska.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, there's enough breeze that comes in through my my windows because, you know, This is I mean, it's not an off-grid cabin, but it's an Alaskan cabin. There, some of my windows aren't sealed as tight as some of the homes that I've lived in. I get enough of a breeze that you'd be cool enough upstairs.
It's rustic.
It's very rustic. So the whole scene with the girl that Larry wakes up with, where she's like, "You're not a nice guy." That totally happens in the book, which is really cool, because that is, I keep talking about people's internal monologues, but I mean, Larry's thing throughout the bulk of the book is, I'm not a good person. I'm not a nice guy. I'm not a nice guy. And he keeps thinking about that woman. She's actually a dental hygienist in the book. She's not a barmaid, but, it is what it is. She still yells at him that he's not a nice guy as he's bailing on her after a one-night stand.
Yeah, but he's... I'm giving him a pass on this one.
Because she blew horrible snot.
Yeah, and she, seemed, really offended that he didn't kiss her on the mouth. He kissed her on the forehead.
I don't think she realized that she was covered in green snot, to be fair.
She asked for a tissue.
Yeah, but I don't think she knew how serious it was.
Well, okay, look, it's a pandemic.
So my notes from that scene are, this disease looks so horrible.
It does. And I'm like, okay, it's a pandemic. For one, you shouldn't be hooking up.
Oh,
but
can we have a conversation about that? You don't hook up in pandemics.
But if you do, and the next day that person is exhibiting symptoms, don't kiss them on the mouth.
Right.
Don't even kiss them on the forehead. Just bail. It's okay.
Yeah.
You get a pass. It's a pandemic.
So funny.
Just, remember to, when you're dating on social apps, just remember to not give out your real phone number. You can go through
hook up in a pandemic if you're dating on social apps.
Yeah, no, don't do that. But you'll be able to block them easier if you don't give them your real phone number. You go to Google, you get a temporary phone number, and you can communicate like that.
Okay, we'll talk after the show's over.
Seriously, date safely, people. Whether it is in a pandemic or not, but there are some really crazy people out there you do not want to be giving your phone number to.
Okay, speaking of pandemics and horrible diseases, I am completely not convinced that anyone at that hospital would have time to be calling Larry and telling Larry that his mother is in the hospital.
Oh, yeah, no. Definitely.
I am completely not convinced.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
And would he be, I guess, but would he be able to check her out like that? I mean, you can check out a medical...
here's the thing. I think it was such chaos. I don't think he checked her out. I basically think he shoved her in a wheelchair and high-graded her.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Thank God I've never been in an ER that looks like that. I'm having shades of Code Black.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really do think that it was chaotic enough that he was like, Mom, I'm getting you out of here. Which, by the way, I have a funny story for you, and I'm going to take us down another rabbit hole, but this is a funny story. So the nurse practitioner that I see for my own care, not funny part of the story, her husband was very badly injured when he was helping clean up after a storm, and part of a tree fell on him, a limb broke off and fell on him. And they were actually down south taking their kid to university. He was so badly injured, multiple broken vertebrae, multiple broken ribs, collapsed lung, broken hip. He was a mess.
Okay, did a limb fall in on him, or did the tree fall on him?
Right? So he got taken to a trauma center. She got there, a little bit after he did. By the time she got there, they had already put a chest tube in him, and they were talking about taking him to the OR. They had not given him any pain meds. No pain meds.
My dear God.
And you have to understand, both of these people are very sweet people. They are very loving people. I don't think that she says a bad thing about anybody. And she said that she looked at the physician's assistant who was taking care of him and said, you've got 2 minutes to write orders for pain meds. And I mean, this nurse practitioner is incredibly experienced. She has tons of critical care experience. And the PA was like, excuse me, I'm going to give him some Tylenol. And she's like, no, you're not. First of all, he's going to the operating room. Secondly, you don't even know if he can swallow. Because by that point, he was in a sea collar and a turtle shell.
Oh,
and she's
God.
like, these are your options for drugs. And if you don't write an order for one of these drugs, you can get your supervising physician right now and get out of this room. And the PA looked at her and said, are you threatening me? And she said, you bet your ass I am.
Oh my goodness.
And so then the supervising physician came in and was like, I am so sorry. I can't believe how sideways this went. We'll get everything taken care of. He went to the OR. Everything was okay. She got up to his ICU bed with him. Half an hour later, his nurse still has not hooked him up to oxygen or hooked his chest tube up to suction, which a chest tube needs to be hooked up to a suction unit to work.
Okay, was this hospital overrun by COVID stuff?
No!
Oh,
So she's like, she rings the nurse and she's like, if you'll give me the code for the oxygen, I'll turn it on and get me the tubing and I'll hook the chest tube up. And the nurse was like, do we have a problem? And she was like, yes, as a matter of fact, we do. My husband's been in his room for a half an hour and he's not hooked up to oxygen and his chest tube is not hooked up to suction. And the nurse sent her supervisor in.
go for it.
And again, my nurse practitioner was like, here's the problem. Now we're an hour out and none of this stuff is dealt with. And the nurse supervisor was like, well, the oxygen's hooked up. And she's like, yeah, it's plugged in, but it's not turned on. Well, the nurse supervisor sends the house supervisor, who's like the nurse who supervises the whole hospital, in. And the house supervisor's like, you're leaving now. And my friend and my caregiver is like, no, I'm leaving when the chest tube is hooked up. No, you're leaving now. No, I'm leaving when the chest tube is hooked up. They had 6 security guards escort her out.
Oh my goodness.
Right? She got in the next morning. They let her back in. Got in at the same time the physician did. The physician was like, I'm really concerned. His chest x-ray just doesn't look as good as it did when he left the OR yesterday. She looks down at the bedside. The chest tube is still not hooked up.
Oh.
Now, what made me think about that is that she checked him out as fast as she could.
Wow.
And he probably got better care at home, quite honestly.
Why can't people ever just admit that they screwed up and I'm sorry, I will make it right as soon as I can? You know?
Here's the thing. I mean, and I totally took us down a rabbit hole and I'm so sorry. But in healthcare, it is very, very well documented that if you just look at somebody and say, I am sorry, I really screwed up and I take responsibility, it dramatically reduces your risk of getting sued.
Uh-huh.
Because people appreciate that you're honest and you take responsibility.
Well, and like anyone who's ever worked in customer service knows that there are just some people that you can't do anything for them except listen and empathize. You know? And sometimes that helps.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sorry I took us down that road, but yes, people do high grade their family members from hospitals all the time. Usually it's called signing them out against medical advice.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that this hospital in the Stand was so overrun that Larry was like, Mom, I'm getting you out of here.
I look at hospitals now and I'm like, I don't even think Larry would have gotten in there. Like,
no.
Right. He would have never been called.
No.
But he, like, even if he found his mom, like, they'd have been like, sir, you can't come in. This is like an infection zone or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot more notes. In fact, I have no more notes. We've already talked about the flu looking gross and Heather Graham's a witch.
I will say one of the things, and this is kind of a witchy thing, but the fact that Larry keeps having these visions of rats and crows, and just the fact that Randall Flagg is getting represented by rats and crows is kind of like witchy and satanic and demonic and all this dark imagery, and I think it's really interesting. I don't necessarily buy it, because in my world, crows are okay. Rats, not so much, but crows, yes. Rats as pets, okay, but not just free roaming. But yeah, I think it's interesting. The imagery is interesting. And it's actually wolves and crows in the books, more so than rats, although rats definitely show up in the book as well.
I was gonna say I can't remember if it's this episode or maybe it's a future episode, but there's a couple times where he appears as a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he mostly appears as a crow. And I don't think he is supposed to be the rats. I think the rats are like
They're just they're more symbolic of him. They're not him, but they're more symbolic of him.
Yeah, the way that it was used in the 1994 movie was Mother Abigail lived in the middle of this giant cornfield, and he was sending rats in the corn.
So she actually gets menaced by weasels in the book.
Oh. Weasels are cute.
Speaking of animals that are being used to like be Flagg's minions, okay, the dead police horse that the crow pulls the eye out of, that is the series Walking Dead moment.
Yes. Yes. That was like delectably gnarly. Like I loved it. In the 1994 movie, there was like Larry did walk by a horse that was dead in the street in the middle of New York, and it's like a police horse, or maybe it was like one of the ones that pulled the carriages or something. So not weird to see a horse in the middle of New York.
Yeah, no, I actually have friends who ride police horses in New York, so yeah not weird at all.
But there was not the cool eyeball scene,
right?
In the 94 version.
One more thing about Rita's death. In the book, it's actually a lot more horrifying because, like, Larry goes in to wake her up and have sex with her and finds her dead.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, and what's funny is, like, we went and, when we watched, I went and rewatched later, like a couple of days later or something, and I didn't even get
that she was committing suicide.
They didn't really show it. Was I not?
They actually didn't. No, they didn't really show it. I mean, he makes the reference when he meets Harold that I was on someone with someone on the road too, and it didn't work out or something like that.
Yeah. It had to be explained to me that she died, and then we had the whole conversation of wait, like, which one is Rita and which one is Nadine?
Right.
No, Rita is Nadine. No, like, what's going on? What? Yeah, make their hair different colors or something. Like,
okay, another Larry moment, and you and I talked about this, I think, before we logged on, and you kind of made a reference to it, but I just wanted to say that, like, 3 minutes of Larry walking through the sewer dropping F-bombs, to me, was just lazy writing. I actually got kind of frustrated. I was like, first of all, CBS is getting in more than its requisite number of F-bombs in this episode. And secondly, Stephen King is a better writer than that.
So I have to say that it was a genuine reaction, but it was also completely unnecessary, and I'm finding out where the extra 3 hours in the series is. It's in, like, establishment shots.
Okay, remember, it's a 1,200-page book.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like I'm missing so much from the 1994 miniseries that hasn't happened in... I'm now 4 hours.
Do you think it hasn't happened yet, or do you think it's not going to happen?
I feel like it was character establishment in the original that's not going to happen in this one.
So I'm going to tell you, I'm a little scared that they're going to shortchange some characters in this one just because they just kind of brushed up against them, like Ray Brentner, who was Ralph in the book. Like Nick Andros, who was very significant in the book.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so now episode 5 is out. I've watched up through episode 4. There's 9 episodes. Same. So I don't know. Yeah. But I'm a little concerned that some of these characters that in my brain are really big are going to get short shrift.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I've rated it so low, is because I feel like we don't have the character establishment that made me care about the storyline of all of these characters in the original 1994 version. So that has been my low rating thus far. They have sort of made up for it by doing they're doing more flashbacks, whereas the original version was more linear. So yeah.
So I have two more things to say and then I'm done. And oh my God, we've talked for 2 hours, which I kind of thought we were going to. And I may be, this may not have happened. I may be borrowing in my brain stuff that happened in another episode. Does Nadine get the planchette out in this episode?
No, that is the beginning of next episode.
Okay, then I'm not going to say it. Does Flagg rescue Lloyd in this episode?
Yes.
See,
yes,
I totally confused a whole bunch of things in my brain. So the thing about Flagg is that they keep showing his feet. Okay, in the book, he is wearing snip-toed, dipped in cow dung, worn out cowboy boots. I mean, they are pointy-toed black Rick Grimes cowboy boots. They are not the scruffy work boots that he's wearing in this series.
Oh, Randall Flagg in the original series was totally like OG 80s cowboy, like jean jacket, like old cowboy boots. He had like the fancy mullet. Where it was like kind of a mullet, but not like poor white trash mullet. Like, it was like 80s hairband mullet. So yeah, the vibes from the Randall Flaggs are different.
And I totally think Skarsgård is a great Randall Flagg. It's just there's so much emphasis on his boots in the book, and there's so much emphasis on people like seeing them and hearing them click, and that being like something that they perceive long before they even see Randall Flagg. And then they totally jack up the way the boots are supposed to look.
Yeah, I don't think that was a thing in the 94 version.
Oh, it's a thing in the novel.
Okay. No, they're definitely making very, very good use of the Skarsgård blue eyes.
Oh, he's a very handsome Randall Flagg.
He is.
Which, by the way, the line that he says to Lloyd about that one leg is looking a little thinner than the other, that's in the book. That's in the book.
That's not in the 94 version.
And is this the scene that you were talking about where he says, "Pleased to meet you, hope you guessed my name"?
Yes.
Because he actually says at the end of this, "Pleased to meet you," and then stops there.
Oh, like I said, I don't know if maybe they don't have the rights to that Rolling Stone song or what, but I'm like, Guns N' Roses got the rights to it. I'm sure CBS had the power to get the rights to it.
If Axl Rose can sing it, surely CBS can get it.
Right? And it was just so great. Like, it was just a quick little thing in the 94 version, and like the look on Randall Flagg's face when like he said it and then Lloyd didn't get the reference.
Right.
And he was like, it's a classical reference.
Oh God, that's so funny.
I missed it. Yeah. So that's all that I had for this week, which was apparently a lot.
And I think that's all that I had, which was apparently a lot. And I dragged us down a lot of rabbit holes that had very little to next to nothing to do with the Stand, but I enjoyed those rabbit holes nonetheless.
And this episode started out with rabbit holes.
Yeah, it kind of did.
That was my fault. Sorry, not sorry.
And then tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the boys in the band for The Real Housewives.
We are, with Jim Parsons.
We will keep, and Zachary Quinto. Quinto or Quinto?
Yep. Quinto. I say Quinto.
And we'll keep people posted on our next appearance with the Capes and Lunatics crew.
Yeah. Sounds like that may come up next weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because the other housewife was like, come have dinner at my house now that I'm vaccinated. And I was like, I could do it Sunday, but Saturday I'm going to be really busy.
Saturday, I'm going to be day drinking because we podcast with people on the East Coast.
Right, so I have to do the vodka infusion thing that she gave me, so I'm ready.
At 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
But now I have to go do the really exciting single woman thing and clean the cat box.
And I get to go be Baked Alaska. And not the right-wing blogger guy. I have a dispensary that's very close to my house now. And the dogs approve.
The dogs are fully in support of whatever you decide to do with the remainder of your evening. I think they're barking at a thud from the cat upstairs, but I'm not entirely sure. It could be someone trying to rob me. But
you know, the world has gone bonkers.
The world has gone bonkers.
So everyone, until next time, stay safe.
If there is a next time.
Yes, if there is a next time.
And if there's not a next time, at least until the world ends, just remember take it one dead day at a time. But we're really out of practice.
We are out of practice. Yeah, that was terrible.
We're
not
awful.
Redoing it. We're doing this live.
We are. People don't get that reference anymore either. That was way in the before times.
Oh.
All right, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.